felt like your heart just wasn't in your career anymore? What if I told you you can reinvent your career at any age? Perhaps you're at this place in your life right now where you're thinking, hey, is there anything more? Well, here's what you need to know. Who are you now? We're going to circle back to that question. Okay, career reinvention. This is the part in the talk where some people would say, just follow your passion. Really? Groundbreaking. Just follow my passion and somehow magically everything will fall into place. Who are these people? Well, it turns out I'm one of those people. But I'm not going to tell you to simply follow your passion like some storybook character skipping after it. I'm going to tell you to stalk that sucker, slam it to the ground like an all-pro linebacker on game day, and make it your own. Let's go, right? Woo! Let's go! But before you can stalk your passion on the way to reinventing your career, you may have to discover your passion first, okay? I was reading an article that said 20% of people say they have an innate passion to follow. 80% say they do not, and they don't know where to find it. Well, here's how I discovered my innate passion, and I reinvented my career. And I'm hoping that my story in some way will help you do the same. Okay, reinvention at any age, because, well, obviously. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Reinvention isn't about your age. It's about your energy. And part of discovering your passion is tracking that energy. And pay attention, because energy shifts. At this point, I've had more reinventions than the cell phone, okay? What are you going to do, right? But what I want you to know is that on the journey, you have to figure out where you're going to go and what your passion is. And I currently am living my passion. I am occupying the lifestyle space, home and garden, cooking and entertaining. With that in mind, I create content for magazines, television, and social media. My mantra is make it beautiful and keep it real, and that truly is my innate passion. But that's not where I started. So I'm going to hit on a few, life highlights because it's important to my story. All right, I'm a journalism graduate from the University of Washington. I was on the University of Washington dance and cheer team. I was Miss Washington. I know what you're thinking, it was a weak year. So I spent 10 years in television news, mostly reporting and anchoring the news, but I also covered some sports. I hosted a magazine show, and I'm also a mom and wife. And each of those career eras, as I like to call them, require reinvention. And one of the keys to reinvention is hard work. I know what you're thinking, just work hard. But hear me out. So there's a study out there, and it's really interesting, and it's about athletes. And what it says is that when an athlete does all of the work, it creates a confidence, okay? It creates a confidence, and it allows that athlete to perform at their peak potential. That whole idea of playing in the zone, it happens in sports, and it happens in other fields. And it's really interesting when that happens. Another big thing that you need to do is you have to have courage in your life to reinvent yourself. Reinvention also takes risk-taking, like moving to a television market where I didn't know a soul. And it also requires an eagerness to always be learning and navigating challenging learning curves. When I started in television news, in the smaller markets, you did it all. You were the videographer, the editor, the reporter, the anchor, and you turned off the lights at night. Talk about a learning curve. What you want to do is make sure that your passion and your energy align, okay? Your passion and your energy, that is so important. And one of the things that I was able to do is reinvent myself, and I started a blog. It's a lifestyle blog called La Familia Design. And so I started this blog, and I tapped into my childhood and my Italian-born grandmother Nettie's rustic entertaining, her organic gardening. So I would create content, upload it to the blog, but here's what happened. I went to hit post, and I froze. I absolutely freaked out. And it didn't make sense, because I was already a storyteller coming from TV news, and I had done some things in my life that required some, reinvention, but I was afraid to tell people about my story. That little voice in the back of your head that says, who do you think you are? Hot tip, tell that voice to sit down, okay? Well, along the way, I was reacquainted with a former television mentor of mine. And it had been like 18 years. And he said, last time I knew you, you were climbing the ladder, you know? And he said, who are you now? And there's that question. Well, I shot back. Well, you know, I'm a wife and a mom. I'm a blogger. I built my house, blah, blah, blah. Totally called me on it. They said, no, not your roles, your titles. Who are you now? And it stopped me in my tracks. And I had to go on a deep life dive to find the answer. And perhaps you do too if you're looking to reinvent your life. Ask yourself, who are you now? And what do you want this next chapter of your life to look like? So I started that blog, and it turns out, I don't know why I was so worried, because 37 people saw my post around the world, okay? 37 people, and I was related to most of them, okay? And thank you to my family, thank you so much. But 37 people, come on. It felt like failure early on. But sometimes, on the road to reinvention, you have to fail to find growth. And by the way, I only consider it failure if you fail to learn from it. So what I realized in telling my story is that I needed to find a broader audience. Why? Because in telling my story through food, I hope to encourage other people to share their stories. You, share your stories. And wait, your grandmother didn't take you mushroom hunting in the forest? You're clutching your bucket, your little butter knife in the forest. My grandmother wears a coat with a fur collar, okay? It's deer hunting season. You know where I'm going with this, right? Shots ring out, we're trucking out of that forest, but I hung on to my bucket. And my grandmother rolled those mushrooms into the most amazing antipastos and pizza toppings. I'm gonna be real with you, because reinvention requires perseverance. Rarely in my life has anything come to me on the first try. Didn't make junior high cheerleader. I know, big deal, right? But it is a big deal when you're 13. But I kept going, and dancing at the University of Washington was the time of my life, kid. I didn't make Miss Washington on the first try. I wasn't even in the top 10. Okay, my family, my friends from college, they all came down to see the big Saturday night finale, and I wasn't in it. I had to watch the show go on from the balcony. And I remember looking down on that stage, my 20-year-old eyes welling up with tears, and thinking, respectfully, heck no, I'm not done here. So I ran again, okay? And I won. And I can tell you that walking the Miss America runway in Atlantic City, New Jersey was all the sweeter because I kept going. I kept going. And that's what's important, right? So when passion meets purpose and you find what you're meant to do, how do you meet the moment when like that opportunity knocks at the door, right? Well, here's my top 5, quick top 5. Number 1, outwork yourself. You are in competition with one person, and that's you. Number 2, work without a net. You want growth? Work without a net. There's no do-over. Number 3, and this is important, be on from the start. Okay, I was doing Seattle television. I signed with a national agent. I flew to New York to audition for a network job. And a driver picks me up at the airport, and he's looking at me through the rearview mirror, and he says, I don't know, usually I can call it. Well, I didn't get that job, and that's not why. But I never forgot that experience, and lesson learned, be on from the start. Fast forward several years later, which was just a few years ago, a network opportunity finally came back around. And I'm going to tell you, I was on from the time I walked through the sliding glass doors at SeaTac Airport. I was on. Unfortunately, so were my battery-operated remote control tablescape lights in my carry-on. It was flashing. So I was pulled over in security, searched. I had to explain the light show. Well, I made it to LAX and did Universal Studios Hollywood, and I had an opportunity to appear on those network shows many times, and I can't begin to express to you how grateful and blessed I feel to have finally had that opportunity, that network opportunity, 25 years later. So the whole thing is about finding your passion, your purpose, your mission. My mission was to have people tap into their stories, my mission. And when you can do all that, it has such great, great meanings. What I want you to do is to ask yourself, who are you now? And what do you want this next chapter of your life to look like? I challenge you to answer those questions with action. And I'm going to leave you with one final question, and I say this from the bottom of my heart. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Go write your next chapter, and I'll be cheering you on. Thank you.